Welcome back to What Fuels You. On today's show, you'll hear highlights from Shauna Swerland's 2020 interview with Kate Wallich, a choreographer and the founder and CEO of Dance Church. Kate's desire to study and practice dance led her to people and places she never thought possible while growing up in Michigan. When this pursuit took her to Seattle, she learned how sharing the power of dance can forge meaningful connections and inspire others. In this recap episode, you'll hear Kate emphasize the power of expressing yourself and hear her talk about how movement can promote healing and create positive communities. Thanks for listening.
I feel like between the ages of like 3 and 14, it was just all passion and all love and desire. And it was social. Like I have these like amazing memories of our dance carpool where I would be doing the same thing, braids, putting on my leotard in the backseat of the car, listening to Tom Petty, just singing like Tom Petty at the top of our lungs. And then like going to dance, being really like regimented and rigorous and so focused and dedicated, and watching myself in the mirror and like getting notes and all the things that you do, but also having no context for what was good or bad, or like I was in like a little small town bubble, you know? But I remember watching, eventually like getting on YouTube, researching ballet dancers. And I remember looking at these videos of like Elsie Kirkland and Balanchine dancers from like early New York City ballet, and just looking at them and being like, I don't look like that. I watch myself in the mirror and like, I'm not like that. And if that is good, I need to get better. And so I literally like had this moment where I was like, I love this thing. I'm so passionate. I was 14. And so I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, can I get more dance training? And so she started like letting me go to like do Nutcracker, Ann Arbor and Detroit, like the bigger cities. And I also dipped my toes in competition dance a little bit. It was in that moment where I was like, if I want to be a dancer, like I need more training. So basically I did research on my own of finding these like boarding schools. My mom like assisted me, and I found some boarding schools for dance that exist. And so I ended up auditioning for them, and one of them happened to be in Northern Michigan. And so got financial aid. My mom was like, apply for the scholarship. She really was like, do it all. If you do it, like we'll make it happen, you know? And so I ended up going to Interlochen Arts Academy for my last 2 years of high school as a boarding school student. And that is really where I was exposed to like a whole new level of artistry and like artistic people, you know? That school is just like very prestigious and has like, I was going to school with like famous artists' children and like these sort of like legacy artistic families, and like had like incredible professors and teachers. And yeah, I was just really exposed to a whole new world. Like I had like international students as like my roommates, and I was exposed to like wealth and money, like going to school with like people with like a lot of money, which I come from like a middle-class family. And so that was like just very eye-opening. I have so many mixed thoughts about like education and like training, especially in a field that 1% of people actually who enter the field of dance get jobs. This is like bigger picture thinking of where I've taken dance church and stuff, but like I have a lot of feelings about that. And I was very fortunate and privileged to be able to like get the resources and, have the parents that like encouraged me to be able to go to a school and get that training. But I really wanted to be a ballet dancer. And like, if you want to be a ballet dancer, like you have to go to like a Pacific Northwest Ballet or a School of American Ballet. Like that is the pipeline, And so I kind of missed that opportunity, because I did go to this more sort of holistic school. That said, it was the best. That's where I was supposed to go, to like be exposed to like a broader way of thinking when it comes to medium and genre and formats inside of dance. And so when I was looking to go to school, I got the most scholarship to go to Cornish, essentially. And my mom and dad were like, bye-bye.
See ya.
And, Seattle was interesting. Like that, and that school is interesting because it's really one of those schools that you like make it what you want it to be. And so I was really still like kind of holding down, like, I still want to be a ballet dancer, even though I was like, I'm not going to be a ballet dancer anymore, you know? And so it's at Cornish where I really started to research choreographic thinking and sort of conceptualizing my dance practice for myself personally. Because I would make dances in boarding school. I would be that dancer that was just in the dance studio every night from like 6 to 9 p.m. Like I still, after like I'm like doing my dance tech job all day, like I go to the studio from like 5 to 10 p.m. at night, you know, and make dances because that's what you do as a dancer and a choreographer. So, but in Seattle and like when I went to Cornish, I realized that like ballet was not going to happen for me. And so that's when I started to like research my own movement language and really started to disassociate with like ballet as a form and started to find my own sort of like gestural and sort of movement language for what it was that I was going through, which was kind of like grief around like a career that I wish that I had. And so dance and choreography really became a place of like processing for me. Vulnerability takes trust. And so, you know, those processes for me would always begin singular. Like I would be in a space on my own going through like sometimes I would go to the studio and I would just lay like without moving for 3 hours. And then I would like get up and leave. And I was like, productive. That was productive today. Okay, good. Next day. And, you know, slowly I would move from a place of just like so much feeling and then start to move into like, oh, how is my body taking this in and wanting to respond to that? And then once I would really get into that place, I would move into a place of actually creating some goals inside of it, like noticing habits that were coming out of my body and then starting to formalize them a little bit. And also creating a language around like what it was that I was feeling, what it was that I was doing. And at that point was when I was like, I think I need to invite other people into this space and start to be able to translate whatever is going on in here and see if I can translate that to other people. And so that's the point in the process that I've always sort of like brought dancers into the space with me to sort of like create a shared language together. It's built on these hierarchies, like you or these norms, like, okay, you go to a dance education, you get your dance education, then you go to college for dance, or you join a company and then you join a company and then you dance for quite a while. And then you start making choreography and then you start to have your choreography career. And there's just so few dance companies now that when I was coming up in the dance world, there were no jobs anymore. So It was like, if you wanted to dance, you kind of had to figure out how to do it on your own.
Right.
Unless you could, go and try to get a job in a company in Europe or something.
And so how did you birth this whole idea? Like, tell me about the origin story of Dance Church.
Well, I mean, I was stuck in Seattle and I felt really lonely. And so Dance Church really started because as I was in that studio space in Pioneer Square, and I was processing my dance emotions and all the events that were happening around my world. I just missed a feeling of community. And I don't really know that I ever fully had experienced a feeling of community before. Like
you knew you craved it. Yeah.
Craved it. And I was meeting all these people in different fields, and there was just not really like one space that existed. There wasn't really a class taking culture in Seattle at the time. And so I just started a Sunday morning movement practice, and I just started to invite people randomly that I would meet. And
did you call it Dance Church?
At first it was called Sunday morning movement practice. Which is terrible. Terrible name, but eventually, like, it was on Sunday mornings, and eventually people started to come, and it wasn't like a lot of people. It was like, 5 people a week, 7 people a week, 12 people a week. But after class, we would go downstairs. There's like a little restaurant underneath, and we would go downstairs and we would have brunch together and share some food and a coffee after class. And it just kind of became a ritual. And the students were like, oh my God, this is like our church. This is our dance church. And so really it was like the takers that kind of
I love it.
coined the term. So basically from 2010 until 2020, like Dance Church was just a grassroots community movement that had, grew from 5 people a class to literally like hundreds of people a week taking our classes in 6 different cities across the country. Because what was happening was that as my dance career was growing and I was meeting more dancers, like I started to have to scale myself in some ways. Like,
Right.
I was teaching classes in Seattle every single Sunday, but then I got an opportunity to like go do a commission in a different city. And I was like, who's going to teach Dance Church, So I had to sort of like, find a way to codify what it was that I was doing and teach it to other dancers. And so I started to do that. And the same community would keep coming to the classes no matter what the teachers. And so I started to like go through the learning curves of like how to train people, but it was really analogous to like my training dancers and working with dancers in my dance company. It was like giving notes and like taking their classes and starting to sort of like really pull it together. And so, eventually those teachers started to want to get trained as well. And so I started to train teachers in LA and New York and Seattle. And it just really blossomed. But I have to say, like the back end of everything was still super grassroots. Like grassroots is the best way to say it, because like I am not a business person. I didn't go to business school, but I am the daughter of a small town business owner. And also like, I knew how to get people to come to my shows, like I was like, oh, this is this sort of like ephemeral dance idea. How are we going to translate that to the world and show them what this means? So I started to collaborate with photographers and designers and people who could help bring together a visual language for the ephemeral, which is dance, in almost like a marketing way as well. And so that's kind of how Dance Church grew from over those 10 years. I'm a creative. I am a, I'm a choreographer. I'm a dancer. I'm an educator. I'm a curator in a sense. And I am holding down the sort of like for the experience side of things inside of Dance Church and the creative direction inside of it all. The vision is like Dance Church will be online and it will be in person forever.
That's so exciting. I love it.
I mean, the community fuels me. It's like this like crazy relationship where I'm just was so nervous about bringing in-person classes. And then I thought about the community and I thought about all this like energy that we cultivate together. And I'm like, I miss that. Like, I need that. Like, I need the community and they need this and they need me, as their guide. And so also like dancers, like dance as a medium has always been so underrepresented and underfunded and undersupported. And like, as a dance artist, like there's been so many times where I'm like, someone says like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a dancer. And they're like, what does that mean?
Right.
What kind of dancer are you? Or like, someone says like, what's going on in your life? And I'm like trying to talk to them about like my show and my art. And there's just like, there's a cult, like there's not an understanding of what that is. And so it's been like my personal artistic manifesto to be like, how do we have dancers be seen and heard inside of the world and the community so that a dancer is walking down the street and people are seeing that dancer and like looking at that dancer and respecting that dancer and understanding their value in life and in culture. And that's my personal mission, is to actually prove the value and the worth of dance artists.
For one, 100% see all dancers. It's my number one when anybody has asked me on anything, like, what would you do if you weren't doing this? I was like, when I was little, I wanted to be a solid gold dancer. Like, I love dance. I am obsessed with watching dance.
And I think that's the coolest thing that's happening like culturally right now. Like, it says something that like when the entire world shut down during COVID, the whole world turned to dance, because dance is joy, and dance like is a space in your body for you to, heal and to come together and to laugh and to just like experience so much. And so I think like that really motivates me inside of the world that we're in today.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app, or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.